Let's give a big hand to Tom Ryan. I was going to wear my leather shoes today, but I realized my talk will include a lot of walking, so if you allow me. Imagine this is Egypt. Everybody say Egypt.
Egypt.
All right, cameraman, I know you're going to have a hard time with me right now. I'm going to do a lot of work. Egypt. And then what happened was there were slaves here. The Israelites were slaves here. God rescued them, and God brought them. And so Moses led them to Sinai. Everybody say Mount Sinai.
Mount Sinai.
And so here in Mount Sinai, and this is the trek, they're supposed to now go here to Canaan, which is the promised land. Everybody say promised land.
Promised land.
Okay, so I'm going to do my 10,000 steps here because we're going to go back to Egypt again. Thank God for you. Okay, so everybody say, what's this place?
Egypt.
Was this a difficult place for them?
Yes.
Because they were slaves here. They were slaves, right? But then they had to go through the wilderness. Everybody say wilderness.
Wilderness.
All of this is wilderness. Wilderness here, Mount Sinai here, and then wilderness again here. Wilderness, 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 and then the promised land. So this is the whole journey. Now, let's begin. As if I've not begun yet. So here we go. Everybody say, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Egypt.
Egypt.
Difficult place, yes or no?
Yes.
Right? 400 years. 400 years under slavery, under Pharaoh. Wilderness. Question. Ano mas mahirap? Egypt or wilderness? What do you think?
Wilderness.
Mahirap to eh. This is a difficult place. Under the whip of Pharaoh's soldiers. Carrying those big blocks of stone. But in the wilderness, there is unpredictability, uncertainty. At least here, it's predictable that there's pain and then you kind of, but at least there's food. So it's a different kind of difficulty. My dear friends, there are three sub-messages I want to share with you today. And the first one is this, that you walk in the wilderness. Everybody touch somebody beside you and tell that person, you walk in the wilderness.
You walk in the wilderness.
I really think that for some people I meet, there is this false expectation. Everybody say false expectation.
False expectation.
That life is a Disney fairy tale where the prince and the princess fall in love and then they live happily ever after. But we live in a world filled with struggle. And life, when we complain, why is life so hard? Bakit ang hirap ng buhay? Well, I really think life is not designed to be easy. I really don't think so. And I think I'm sorry to burst your balloon here, but life is filled with struggle. In fact, there are three kinds of struggle. How many?
Three.
The first struggle would be the struggles as a human being. It doesn't have to be that you were bad or that you were good, just by the mere fact that you were alive. Are you alive? Person beside you alive? That you can be sure of it that person has struggled. The fact that you have to work hard to put food on the table. That's part of being human. The fact that you're growing older, and as you grow older, your body goes through deterioration and becomes weaker, etc. That's part of being human, and that's part of the struggle of being alive. Death is also that struggle. The second kind of struggle is the struggle of people who disobey God. That's a different kind of struggle, yes or no? God is not a killjoy. When God tells you to do something, it is to protect you from certain struggles that people go through because they disobey God. Are you listening to what I'm saying? And do you know what I'm talking about? That sin is its own punishment. That when God says, do not sin, because He wants to prevent a certain kind of struggle, a certain certain kind of suffering that He does not want you to have. And then you've got the third kind of struggle, the struggle of people who obey God. Brother mo naman, nakakalito, may struggle for those who disobey, pero may struggle for those who obey. Absolutely. You know, when Jesus said, whoever wants to be my disciple, carry your cross every day, come and follow me, mahirap naman talaga magpakabait eh. Yes or no? Raise your hand if you've ever tried to forgive someone who did not even apologize. Mahirap ba? Oh, struggle. Yes or no? My dear friends, if you really think about it, being patient, is that a struggle? But when God wants you to do it. So there is a struggle for being human, there is a struggle for those who disobey, and there's another kind of struggle for those who obey. But life is filled with struggle. And so it is now. This is the point. The point is that we always walk in the wilderness. But we know that the end point is the promised land. This is what Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers is talking about. Now, if you think about it, to reach your God-ordained dream, you must go through suffering. Do you have a God-ordained dream? How many of you want to have a beautiful family? You want to? Absolutely. Now, will it take suffering to do that? I've been married for 25 years to that beautiful woman over there in the front row. And I want you to know it took a lot of suffering to have this kind of incredible relationship. Yes, you. You're the one. You know, we travel a lot. Do you know what suffering is? We travel a lot, and we do have mission trips here and there. And you know, when we stay in a hotel, so I have a towel, and she has a towel that we use in the hotel, and we hang it in the bathroom and in our room. And you know, sometimes how do you know if that's my towel and that's your towel? You know, I asked her, and then she told me something that's very, very clear. You know, we set a code. She said, your towel is on the left. My towel is always on the right. Because I am always right. so that's called suffering, right? And that's, you know, a lot of people think that, to have a great dream, you know, you can just go, wouldn't it be wonderful if you're here in Egypt and then beat me up, Scotty, and boom! Boom! I'm in the promised land. Does it work that way? No, it does not. You have to tell somebody beside you, kailangan ng wilderness eh. Kailangan. You know, you want to get good grades, you're going to go through the wilderness. You want to put up a good business, you're going to go through the wilderness. You want to have, how many of you want abundant finances? If you want abundant finances, you've got to, you know, work hard. You've got to serve your customers. You've got to, you know, go through the difficulty of putting up a business. You've got to live simply, live below your means. You've got to learn how to mag-invest, you know, ang daming tao. Wilderness. How many of you want to have a healthy body? Does it involve suffering?
Yes.
Our problem is this. We are addicted to comfort. Hey, I like comfort. You know, I enter a room and there's this wonderful, soft couch that if you sit in, you sink and disappear. And then beside it is a hard, three-legged wooden stool. Question, where will you sit? So, no. It's okay to look for comfort. But you see, if you make comfort your highest value, you will never achieve anything great in your life. Are you listening to what I'm saying? So, let me give you one last example. Maybe one or two more. That last year, I had lunch with a bunch of friends of mine. I think I shared this with you. And this was August. one of my friends said, we were talking about push-ups. And one said, I do 200 push-ups a day. The other one said, they were comparing notes. So these were really healthy guys, healthy friends of mine. And I was just listening, and I tried to remember when was the last time I did a push-up. When Rizal was shot in Granada. I cannot remember when. But then I said to myself, I walk naman, I do a little exercise here and there. So I said, maybe I can do 9 or 10. So I went home. When I went home, I fell to the floor and started doing my push-ups. Do you know how many I made? You want to know? Okay, ask me how many? 1. 1 measly, laborious, ego-deflating push-up with shaking hands. It was so embarrassing. And it's true. When you reach 50, 1.5% of your mass muscle disappears. You begin to atrophy. You become weaker to the point that when you're in your 60s, your 70s, it is a feat to be able to lift a glass of water to your mouth. And so I said, I better do something. So every day, I would do my 1 push-up. Every day, because that's all I could do. The following week, I did 2. The following week, I did 3. And now I do 100. Divided by 5. 20, and then I rest for a while, and then I do another 20, and then I rest for a while. Now,
Sample. Sample.
So to do 100 a day, I made a decision. I'm gonna push up anywhere I would be. Like in the morning, of course, I do it wherever, and then I'm in a restaurant and I would do push-ups right there beside my table. I would be in a hotel lobby and I'll do it. And so there was this one time I was in a restaurant and I'm eating with my family, my 2 boys, Francis, Ben, and my wife, and then so I dropped on the floor and I started doing my push-ups, and my 2 boys, you know what they did? They walked away. We do not know that man. We do not know. And so, what do you want me to do?
Wow! Side view. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Hindi naman nakakaliyan. Kaya kung saan-saan niya ginagawa.
The thing is
Sa
this.
stage tip. Brother boy.
No, really. Why do it? What's the purpose? It's almost like, it's one down, up, down. Walang pinatutuunan. Parang wilderness. Na parang paikot-ikot sila. And the point is this. The reason why I do it is to become stronger. It's painful to do it. But you see, it takes pain. Pain is the only way to become stronger. Do you experience pain right now in your life? Emotionally, mentally, financially, physically. It is the only way to become stronger. You understand what I'm saying? And so, last example, I'm just extending here. But, I teach entrepreneurship, and I need to say this to people. How many of you want to become an entrepreneur? I teach this. Do what you love, the money will follow. It's got to be passion. But, big but. A lot of times, people misunderstand that statement, and they say, if I don't like to do something, then I won't do it. No, that's not it. The point is this. Before you become successful, you will have to do a lot of things you hate. You will have to do a lot of things you don't like. And then one day you'll be able to do the things that you love and focus there. But at the start, it's going to be a lot of wilderness before you go to the promised land. And again, I repeat this, to accomplish anything great, you have to go through massive amounts of pain. The second thing I want to share is this, that the wilderness journey is extra long. Egypt, Exodus, they walked through the wilderness and they arrived in Mount Sinai, book of Leviticus. For 1 year, they stayed in Sinai. Now, from Mount Sinai to the promised land, how many years did it take? We read this in the book of Exodus already. In Exodus chapter 16, verse 35, it says, "So the people of Israel ate manna for what? 40 years, until they arrived at the land where they were settled." My dear friends, how many years does it really take? Ano ba yung distansya from Exodus to the promised land? May konting detour sa Sinai, and then all the way to the promised land. How long is the distance? Ask me, how long?
How long?
Will it really take 40 years? Do you want to know the answer? Can I shock you? Hold on to your seats because you might fall. Are you ready? 11 days. 11 days. It will only take 11 days from Egypt to... I love this song. Promised land. So why did it take 40 years? Ask me why.
Why?
Maybe some of you were saying, "Ay, brother ko, alam ko na, logistical nightmare. Ang dami nila." And anybody of you who are parents, when you travel, husband and wife, on a trip, mabilis. But if you bring small children, ay nako, ang bagal, ang daming wee-wee break. Ang daming tantrum. Siguro ganun, brother ko. Pwede. Pero, ganun ba kadaming wee-wee break? 11 days to 40 years? Parang hindi eh. You know, brother Bo, maybe they walk slow. Hey, I'm an expert of slow. My wife says, I'm so slow. I bike slow. I drive slow. Last week, for the first time, rode a jet ski. Sa bagal ko, meron isang bangka. Nagsasagwan. In-overtake ako. Ganun ako kabagal. I want you to know that how is that slow? 11 days to 40 years. Here's the answer. Here's the truth. The journey took long, not because of logistical reasons, but spiritual ones. Because this is this thing that we're going to find out in the book of Numbers. The people of Israel, they were disobedient. In the first 10 chapters, we'll find this out next week. They were very obedient. First 10 chapters. After that, it goes downhill from there. They are disobedient, they are stubborn, they rebel against God. They're just like Adam and Eve in the garden. Same pattern. They wanted to be God. They wanted to do what they wanted to do. They defined good and bad apart from God. They said, we know better, God. God, you're no longer my God. I'm going to be God. That's what they were doing in the wilderness. And so what God did was He prolonged the journey. Everybody say prolong.
Prolong.
What happens is that, you see, how many of you have ever failed in your life? Have you failed in your life? School, love life. If you failed in life, question, were there lessons? Were there lessons? Did you learn the lesson? If you learn the lesson, then the failure is no longer a failure. Yes or no? But if you do not learn the lesson, guess what? The lesson will be repeated. Ouch. And so people fail again and again and again in the same failure, in the same mistake. And so I'm gonna. There's this author I want to share with you. Her name is Elizabeth Elliot, and she has something fascinating. She says this: a whole lot of what we call struggling is simply delayed obedience, because we do not obey, because we do not trust, because we do not submit to the will of God, and we resist. We struggle. And it is the second type of struggle that we talked about a while ago, the struggle that comes from disobedience. My story that I remember is when I was 17 years old, not too long ago. I had my first girlfriend, and I wasn't happy. And then 1 week later, I met the great Mike Joseph, spiritual leader, amazing, amazing man. And I met him, and I told him that I wanted to be under his leadership, and if he would mentor me. I was so happy I met Mike Joseph. By the way, he's in heaven now. 2 minutes later, I was no longer happy. Ask me why. Because the first thing he said was, "Brother Bo, do you have a girlfriend? You're only 17. You're so young. This is the time to expand your horizon, to focus on your spiritual and personal growth. If you have a romantic relationship, it does not expand your horizon, it shrinks your world. This is a time where you should take new responsibilities, learn new skills, gain new friends, travel, serve God. And this is the time where you expand your world." So I advise you to give up your relationship and focus on the Lord and on your life. And I was just nodding my head. And then I said, "Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much." And then I left. And I told myself, I will never go back to that man again. And I did not. I did not go back to that man. Why? Ask me why. Because I was in lavabo. I was in love. I was in love with that girl, and I was in love with love. And what happened? And so the point is this, I just want to share this with you. It's very important. I began to realize on my own what Mike was telling me, what told me. And I said, "Oh ma, umiliting mundo ko." But then, no, I was stubborn. I said, "No, I can make this work. I can serve God and focus on the Lord and focus on my spiritual growth and have a girlfriend at the same time." But month after month, year after year, and we lasted for 4 years. In fact, in the middle of that relationship, my girlfriend said, "Alam mo, Bo, I think we're not meant for each other." Why? But then 4 years later, we broke up. And then 1 week later, I go to Mike Joseph and I say, "Mike, I'm ready." After 4 years, I said, "Please mentor me." I think what happened was that I went through the wilderness and I prolonged my journey. Instead of obeying and submitting right away, pinahaba ko pa. Can you tell somebody beside you, do not prolong the wilderness.
Prolong the wilderness.
Prolong. And that's something which brings me to number 3, and I'm going to close here. Could you stand up, please? The main point of Numbers is what I want to preach today. Everybody say, "I'm listening."
I'm listening.
Someone is walking with you in the wilderness. The Israelites, throughout this 40-year journey, they had on their shoulders, every time they were walking, they had on their shoulders that tabernacle. Everybody say tabernacle. And Dr. Ryan was talking about that. It was the house of God. Wherever they went, the tabernacle was there. Every step of their long journey, God was with them. And you right now, you are going through your wilderness. There is pain in your life, there is suffering, there is struggle. That's normal, part of being a human, or it's part of disobedience, or it's part of obedience. But whatever suffering and pain you're going through, God is telling you, maski pinapahaba mo dahil sa disobedience, God is saying, I'm with you. Not only am I with you, my tabernacle is with you, my house. I want you to know that the same message in the book of Numbers is spoken again 1,500 years later in the Gospel of Mark. In the Gospel of Mark, this is what he says about Jesus. The Spirit then compelled Jesus to go into the
Wilderness.
where he was tempted by Satan for 40 days. How many years did Israel travel from Egypt to the Promised Land? 40 years. Where? Wilderness. What did Jesus do in the wilderness? How long? 40 days. That's no accident. Jesus was saying, I am the new Israel. Same wilderness, 40 days to mirror the 40 years. The difference is this. You were disobedient. I'm obedient to the Father. This is what you should do in your wilderness. You are going through your own wilderness right now. God is telling you, do not imitate Israel, imitate Jesus, my son. He was obedient in the pain, in the suffering, in the problem, in the trial, in the storm. Obey God. But obedience can only come if you trust Him. Trust Him that at the end of the wilderness, you arrive in the Promised Land. At the end of the temptation of 40 days, this is what happened. Mark said, Jesus was out among the wild animals, and angels took care of him. Everybody say wild animals.
Wild
It was a
animals.
picture of what the prophet Isaiah said. I'll read it for you, 11 verse 6 and 9. In that day the wolf and the lamb will live together. The leopard will lie down with a baby goat. Nothing will hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain. The holy mountain is a symbol of the Garden of Eden, because the Garden of Eden is really Mount Eden. And I want you to think about this, that what Jesus was saying was, in my wilderness, what happened was Jesus was in a pocket Eden in that wilderness. That's what happened. And that's what God will do. Everybody say, I'm getting it.
I'm getting
What
it.
are you getting? God is with you in the wilderness, and that He will create that Eden, that garden, while you are going through the storm. Are you sure you got that? We're going to talk about this more next week. But I want you to lift up your hand, if you can, and to just say this after me. Jesus,
Jesus.
I want to be like you.
I
I want to trust you
want to trust you
and obey you
and obey you
in my wilderness.
in my wilderness.
Thank you
Thank you
for being with me
for being with me
through my struggles.
through my struggles.
In Jesus'